Welcome back to the Fear
and Beer podcast,
where we discuss all things Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies,
and just a little bit of beer.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Seamus.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Here's Johnny.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You miss me. Aren't you drinking? I never drink. Why?
Before we get into tonight's episode, we want to remind all of those listening on Apple Podcasts to drop us a 5-star review. It helps us grow as a podcast and build our audience. If you're listening on Spotify or any other platform, follow us, and don't forget to share with friends and family who might have a little bit of the strange in them as well.
And while you're on those socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, be sure to find us, Fear and Beer Pod. Give us a like, share, and you can always message us. We love to interact with all you guys.
What up, YouTube?
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, we're on camera now.
I know, it's weird. Still got to get used to it.
Yeah, I don't like how big I look on the screen.
That's
When
why
they
I
say
made it
TV ads,
darker,
yeah,
more ambiance.
because the screen ad's like 15 pounds.
Yeah, 20 to 25, I'll take it. Anyways, we are back in YouTube form as well. So, if you haven't
on
heard,
time.
And on time. This is coming
Like,
out on Friday.
Like, we're actually consistently releasing an episode on the same
Again.
in the next
Two
following
weeks,
week.
2 weeks in a row. So, obviously, if you're seeing this, good job. If you're not watching us yet, head on over to our YouTube page. We just set it up. We're going to be doing our podcasts in visual form as well. We're going to be playing around with the lights. Got different colors for every week. We got plenty of options on this thing. And we're still tweaking some stuff. So this is very new to us as well. So if you heard us start our podcast about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, you've seen how much we've grown from then till now.
Well,
We're sort of.
You haven't seen how much we've grown because you didn't
You've
see
heard
us
it,
before the
sort
last
of.
2 episodes. But you know that we went from $20 mics to decently priced
Some
mics.
better mics. So we'll be following the same pattern for YouTube.
We don't
so.
sound as crackly, and we're not in a bedroom anymore.
Yeah,
kind
we have
of.
a studio-ish, but we will be getting better at this. So bear with us, enjoy the ride, because it's gonna be a fun one, that's for sure. So obviously, plugged our YouTube. Hooray! Yeah, we got that done. Next thing, I know it's very far away, but we secured it. We've gone to Spooky Empire plenty of times as guests in the past, but they just opened up their vendor spots in June for their 17th to the 19th, and we will be there. We actually got a little booth action. Not sure exactly what we're going to be doing there yet. It's a little bit far away, but I figured I might as well mention it, and I do have a whole bunch of stuff here that I was going to do as giveaways. Maybe we'll do a giveaway through the YouTube page to promote that as well, but we're going to be doing a lot of these giveaways at that Spooky Empire. I've held on to this stuff for long enough, so I might as well be able to hold on to it for a little bit longer. But since we have visuals, you can check it out. We have the 92 pumpkin poster. We have the 2000 Horror Night Jack poster.
Yeah, this is HHN
This
swag.
is all HHN swag.
If you didn't get what we were getting for.
We have a whole bunch of, and it's harder to see. We have a bunch of Horror Night pins with the icons and the, you got Jack, Bent Neck Lady, all that kind of stuff.
We got sweet looking posters.
We got the Studio Screamers collector set. Got a whole bunch of these little Scare Zone posters. And let's walk these up because these are pretty cool. And if you're a fan of HHN, I'm sure you know what these are.
Yeah, I gotta get these bad boys on camera.
We'll be doing these as giveaways at Spooky Empire.
Yeah, we'll come up with some interesting ways to do a giveaway or giveaways. We don't have any details yet, but we'll definitely we'll keep you guys posted as the year goes along and when we get to June, which will be here sooner than you probably realize, which is insane to think about, but the year is going to fly by like the last couple of years have. And who knows, maybe we'll do a couple on-site episodes or something while we're there.
We got a lot of cool stuff. And then one last thing that we got that was really cool this week. We got our own
Oh, yeah.
customized bottle opener.
Bottle openers. I left mine at home because I forgot to bring it with me. But do you want to read off who this is by?
Yeah.
So this is by Hazelton Handmade. It's a friend of ours, Alicia Hazelton. She does custom like artwork and custom
Yeah.
like gifts and that sort of thing, and you can do custom images and that sort of stuff. and she figured, what the heck, let's promote myself a little bit and give you guys a couple
Yeah.
bottle openers.
These
Fits
things
right
are-
up our alley.
Yeah.
Love them.
Well,
So
this thing will get some use, and you'll see it now.
So find her on Facebook or Instagram at Hazelton_handmade, or just Hazelton Handmade. She's also got an Etsy shop, etsy.com/shop Hazelton Handmade. So check her out. Thanks, Alicia.
Yes, these are awesome. And we have cans today for beer, so not as much.
Yeah, so we can't really
I'm
open.
still going to use it,
with
but I don't really need it.
No,
But
no, we don't. Well, you bought this, so why don't you kind of give us a little bit of a
all right.
rundown as what we got here? Because I don't think we've had this one before yet, which is
No.
surprising. It's getting harder to find stuff we haven't had on the podcast yet.
Yeah, and this is something that I'm going to have to search a little bit, but this is it's from Florida
Yeah, they're
Brew.
from Tampa.
It's the Tampa Bay Brewing Company, and this is their Gourds Gone Wild. It's a pumpkin ale, which I still found at Publix. It does contain lactose, so we'll see if it's like one of those other style sours we have with the lactose that kind of coats it at the end, but this is also part of the Independent Craft Brewers Association. So really cool stuff. 6% alcohol.
They have an
I don't
imperial
know.
version of this too.
Ooh,
Not the
those
one
are-
we have, but
Those are some good stuff.
so it's a pumpkin yam beer,
Why
according to
don't I,
Untapped.
Well, I'm going to go show off the artwork. Why don't you
Yeah.
see what they got, what they're saying on
So again, local place, microbrewery, Tampa Bay Brewing Company. I think I've had a couple things from them before. Obviously, they're local to us, so if you're in the Florida area, Central Florida area, definitely check them out. You can get them at Total Wine, probably a number of different, bottle shops around in the area. I don't know how widely distributed it is, so if you're listening to us outside of the state, I don't know if you'll be able to find it. But if you come to Florida for a visit and looking for some good beer, check them out. This is, like I said, it's a yam beer, pumpkin beer. Pretty typical of what you would get from a pumpkin or yam beer. I'm surprised you found them because it is a fall seasonal, so they must have had these ones there for a little while. Looks like it was canned on August 25th. So again, much like last week, we're not gonna go too hard on it because unfortunately, with beers, especially ones with lactose in it, which I think you said this had lactose in
Yeah.
it. So lactose doesn't always last forever. So
Doesn't sit the best.
after a few
but-
months, it does go away. But it's only August, so 4 months, it should be okay. But we'll give it a shot, see what it tastes like. But according to Untapped, it's their acclaimed fall seasonal pumpkin spice ale, deep amber in color with solid malty backbone for our famous pumpkin pie spice, which provides aromas of nutmeg, cloves, vanilla, and roasted pecans. So it's going to be an interesting... Well, I mean, it probably seems like it's going to be just another one of those Pumpkinhead style pumpkin
Yeah.
beers, more of like a spicy fall-ish autumn style beer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to blow me away, and this is no shade on Tampa Bay, but I just think it's going to be much like every other pumpkin beer you've ever
Yeah,
had.
I think it's
There's
going to be
nothing-
middle of the line.
which
but
which is usually good because
I was more caught with the artwork, too. It reminds me very much of...
oh yeah, it's totally fitting for this year or for this
Pumpkin
past
Lord,
year.
Realm of the Pumpkin Lord.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
I mean,
To a true
to be
homie.
honest, a lot of the pumpkin
A
beers
true
we've
homie.
had on this podcast and off this podcast, they all add something different to try to like go wild with it a little
Yeah.
bit and change it up. Sometimes changing it up ain't the greatest idea.
Yeah, no.
because
Sometimes just keep it simple.
I mean we all know how much of a whore Nick is for Pumpkinhead.
I
So
am all about this. So let's get these things a crack. And thankfully, these were bottled, you said in August, right?
yeah, they were canned in August.
But they've only been in the fridge for 3 or 4 days. So, let's see. If there is any fault, I'm not going to take it on this one.
no, and it's just people
what
ha-
hap- it's just
people
what
have to
happens.
understand that like when a beer sits for a little while, a little longer than it should, especially craft beer.
Should I hit the blinkies?
Yeah, do they work?
Yeah, mine does.
Ooh, they do.
My Blinky still
My Blinky
works.
works.
I'll leave it on solid just so I don't go crazy
let's
staring
not,
at it.
let's not give people seizures.
All right, let's see.
But let's give it a shot. It's definitely amber.
Very pumpkin head
Smells-
smell. It's just,
smells-
which is nice because it's a neutral. It's just a pumpkin
Smells like a traditional
ale,
pumpkin yam beer.
which is what I like. When it gets too crazy, like the one they had at Horror Nights this year is good. I enjoyed it personally.
Yeah, I liked it.
But it had that like cinnamony style, like
Yeah,
pumpkin, or
it was
it had a
heavier.
weird.
It was heavier on the sweet.
It wasn't as
Um,
ale-y.
Yeah, it
If
was.
that's a
it was
word.
no, you're right. I mean, I think with Pumpkinhead, they kind of found the right balance, and then everybody has been trying to match what they do because I mean, I'm sure they weren't the first pumpkin beer.
Yeah.
But they're the first like I think well-known, pretty widely
Mainstream
distributed
mega.
mainstream
Yep.
mega pumpkin beer. So everybody tries to match that a little bit. And sometimes when you try to go a little too off the reservation, it gets a little weird.
Yeah.
But nothing wrong with that. I like people that try different things, but this one seems like it's going to be just like a...
Yeah, I'm going to dive in on this.
Why don't we take it
Cheers.
Okay.
Not as ale-y as I thought.
It's not... Yeah, it's almost... It's more
There's
like...
a pretty harsh taste up in the front.
It's not bad. It's... I think part of it is you can tell that it's...
True pumpkin.
It
feels like it's real pumpkin and not like the pumpkin puree.
I don't know. It said pumpkin spice, so I don't know if that means it's just got pumpkin flavor in it. Which again it's not like fake pumpkin. It's just they don't use like whole pumpkins in the mash. Yeah. So it's not bad. I think unfortunately being is a little bit older than what you would normally want hurts it a little bit, but that's only because obviously they've had these ones on the shelves since August and
it's still
they've been sitting for a while and they can't just dump it, so they have to eventually sell it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I bet you it's fire fresh.
As the young kids say.
I think a lot of brewers would agree that if you let a beer sit for too long,
fuego.
It does lose the profile a little bit. But not bad. Definitely a pumpkin beer. Not one I'd go wild for.
This is a beer that will probably trick me next year. I will see the design and be like, damn, that's cool. And I'm going to completely forget that I was like, it's an okay beer.
But you'll forget. And
I'm going to buy it anyway.
And it'll be good.
And I'll be like, shit. Oh, man. All right. Well, that's our beer portion.
I'm going to get it all over my mustache.
I guess we should get into the fear option.
Yeah,
which is what we're discussing today. Obviously, this is a big week in the horror movie world with Scream.
Clearly, because we're milking the shit out of it.
No, good, because we got nothing else.
We got nothing else to talk about.
There's not much Horror Nights news in January, so we're going to kind of create our own.
So we got a movie coming out tomorrow, don't we?
We do. Which is, before we even get into that, same thing that like Halloween did back when the remake or restart came out. I really hate when these movies...
Refresh.
We'll call I hate when these like hard reset don't...
Well...
They just keep the title. Or just like... Scream is the sequel to Scream 4.
Yeah.
Just make it Scream 5.
I see where you're going.
Because like back to Halloween, it goes what? Halloween kills, Halloween ends.
Yeah, I know it's a little strange. That's why they refer to it as Halloween 2018.
Yeah,
and because it's technically not a remake, it's a follow up or it's a continuation of the original story. It's a little weird because it doesn't take two really much into account, which it should. But
it skips over two.
It completely skips over and acts like it didn't happen.
18
so
kills ends.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I wasn't a huge fan of the last two new ones.
Yeah.
Obviously, still Michael Myers. I'm still a huge fan of him and the series, so I take it for what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get where you're coming from. It's a little weird with the numbering system.
And they just abandon it, and they're like...
So this is called Scream, right? It's not just Scream 5.
Yeah, no.
It's referred to as Scream. Everyone seems to refer to it as Scream 5. I mean, we all know that's the fifth in the series.
And it's just a continuation. It's the same
Is it follow 1, 2, 3, and 4, or is 4 separate?
I'm not sure. I'm assuming it does. I could be wrong.
To be honest with you, I don't remember if I ever saw 4.
It's good. It's fun.
Because it's been a long time since I've seen 2 and 3, and I have not watched 2 and 3 recently.
I have recently been rewatching them in passing, so my memory is a little bit there. It's not completely there, but essentially what we're beating around the bushes, we're talking about Scream, the franchise.
Yeah, and why the hell are we talking about Scream, the franchise?
The individual movies, but we're talking about if Scream were to come to Halloween Horror Nights.
I see.
Again, I guess it was at the All Nite Die-In too, but it was just like one portion of a.
It was a reason to get Ghostface in a house.
Yeah, it was just a way to get Ghostface in there, but it was just a fraction of the house. It was a compilation house, and Scream was what kicked it off. And in that house, you got scenes from just Scream 1. So you got the garage scene and the opening kill of Drew Barrymore. But if Scream is to come to Horror Nights, which, I mean, I guess when any movie comes out that year, it's fine to speculate about. It's fun. It gives us something to talk
Oh,
about
we can
in
speculate
January.
whatever we want.
I mean, who knows if it will? This isn't us saying, yes, it's confirmed.
we all
this
know that
is
we're going to
whatever.
get Texas Chainsaw again.
Yeah,
but
right. But if it does come, I mean, it would make sense. The new movie's out, and if all the rights align or whatever, what would be the best option for a house? Would it be Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 3, 4, 5, a compilation of all of them, a compilation of the trilogy? How would we work about that as a house? I took out a couple moments from each movie that I think could work as good scenes in a house. Now, all the other transitional scenes are just kind of whatever, but let's just go in order, I guess, and talk about the movies and things that stand out to us that could be possible scenes in a house, and then we'll, at the end, kind of decide what is the best route to take. Would it be a compilation? Would it be picking one over the other? Would it be original trilogy and abandoning the other two? Because obviously we don't know. Well, when you're watching this, we'll have known what Scream 5 is about because we're seeing it tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. You're watching on Friday.
So when this comes out, we have already seen it. So as of this moment, we have not seen it.
But when you're seeing it, we'll have seen it.
When you're listening to it, as of that moment, we'll have seen it.
So Scream 1, a lot of great moments in that.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. So we
did. So it's a little bit fresher on the brain.
Yeah, well, for sure. Like I said, I haven't watched 2 or 3 in a very long time, so those are kind of running together. Mm-hmm. 1 is very fresh in my mind, so we don't really need to reiterate the entire plot.
No.
Everyone kind of gets what it is. We got our lead actress. She's dealing with some trauma. Yeah. And she's dealing with some new trauma.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, look, house-wise, obviously scenes that we could pull from the movie would be, the opening kill of Drew Barrymore, where we've done that before.
Yeah, you bring back Drew Barrymore. You kind of have to keep that scene.
Yeah, if we're going with Scream 1 as a house, I would say that this scene has to be a part of it. And most likely, again, the entrance of the house, if we're going to be going from start to finish story-wise or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, I feel like Scream 1 doesn't have a lot of, settings and sets and stuff like that. Like, with that, I mean, you could also throw in this, a school scene.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot, I don't think, set-wise, because the movie kind of it's filmed in, 4 different locations. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
The last 45 minutes is the same college house party. So,
right. So there's not a whole lot of different scenes you can do with this movie. Yeah. I think you said outdoor scene in the beginning. Probably get the school at some point.
I would do one of those fake out scares, like a Sydney's room, and the scare is Billy coming in from the window just to talk to her. No Ghostface or anything, but just or Sydney's not even there. You're just walking through Sydney's bedroom, and the window's there, and you can have a guy on one of those wire cords. Yeah, and just how he pretty much jumps into the fucking window and screams.
Like how it is in the movie.
Just kind of have that as a little push through area.
Right.
And that could kind of guide you to the next area. Maybe a little school exterior, school interior with a Henry Winkler lookalike getting killed, and that kind of transitions from there.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that judging by how Halloween Horror Nights does a lot of their houses, you're going to have a number of ghost faces. Yeah. And so almost every scene's probably going to have some form of ghost face in it. Mm-hmm. So like you said, the school scene could be, Mr. Winkler getting knifed by Mr. Ghostface. I think the cool thing is the way the twist works in the first movie. You could do some interesting things with the scare actors in a house. There's more credence to having multiple killers because the movie has multiple killers. Yeah. Whereas, when you go to Texas House and it's 17 different leather faces with chainsaws. Yeah. You're supposed to assume that it's the same guy in different parts. Yeah. But obviously,
they throw everything at the wall. They don't care. Yeah.
I do think that before we get into 2 and 3, I think that this house is going to have to be some level of mixture of the series. Maybe not specifically 1, 2, 3, 4, and inevitably 5, but have a mixture of it, and maybe just do the growth of Sydney, or something along those lines.
Because if we are talking strictly Scream 1, there isn't much, correct, to fit into a house. I mean,
if you did, it
would be 5 or 6 settings, I guess.
Yeah, you could do Scream 1 as its own house. It would be, I would almost say it's a little too boring. Like, there wouldn't be
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Like, you would just recreate every scene from the movie.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have the garage scene, and you've had the house, and you've had you go by the van, the TV van, and
Yeah.
there's just a lot of different things that you can just kind of pull from it, but it'll be almost like a step-by-step remake of the movie.
Yeah, and it's not as fun that way.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to, like, let them, Universal, I mean by them, build kind of like their own take on the story.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, hey, this is what was in the movie, this is what you see in real life. Like,
Yeah.
give us a lot of Ghostfaces, give us Sydney's house, give us, maybe the movie set from, I think, was it 2 or 3? I forget which one that one was all about, but, kind of take a lot of those different pieces and create a house in essence of what you saw in the movie.
Yeah, and then, I mean, really, like we said, Scream 1 ends with about a 45-minute slash fest at this little house party. It's the big reveal that it's, Stu and Billy. So, I mean, movie-wise, cinematic-wise, it's a great moment. That's not going to play out in a house, really. I mean, we're not going to have dialogues from characters saying that they were the killers, so, and there's not much scare there. So, I think that pretty much wraps up the possibilities of Scream 1. And now, Scream 2 and Scream 3, obviously, they're a little bit lesser of movies. 2, I think, is a lot closer to the original than the third is. But I think they give us a lot more options of either kills or settings to play with. So, I mean, one of the settings, so we're talking Scream 2 now. If we wanted to piece together a house involving just Scream 2, I feel like you have to have something with Cece from the beginning who got killed. She got thrown out like a window or something like that. It's very reminiscent to how the first one, Scream, starts out, where it's like that senseless killing. Everyone kind of finds out about it. But then we also can do the whole movie theater aspect of things. And that's when they're all going to see like the premiere of Stab or Stab 2, I think it was.
Right.
And everyone's like running around in Ghostface masks and stuff like that. And then the two little sub characters that are just introduced to us as that intro, they break off, and one goes to the bathroom and one stays in there. I think that would be a cool, maybe because I have Puppet Theater still in my mind, but walking through like a theater with seats.
Yeah, no, that would make sense, because like I think there's more to do with it, and I think like you had just mentioned with all the different people in Ghostface masks, I feel like you can do a little bit more clever things with that.
Hiding in plain sight.
So you can
stuff.
almost, I would almost say maybe you could like start the house maybe at the end of one. Like, so you kind of get like that last final confrontation between Billy and Stu and Sydney, and then go further into 2 and 3 with the house, rather than wasting too much time on one, because we've seen some of it before in a house. We've obviously know the movie very well. We also both agree that I think the movie's a little weak when it comes to having items for a house. Yeah. Because I think really, if you were to do just a Scream 1, we've already kind of just said it, but there's not enough there. Yeah. It would just kind of be Sydney's house with Ghostface in it. Yeah. So
that's
I think
really what they're working
with. If you
with.
started with maybe the end of that movie and then kind of do more with 2 and 3, that'd be a little interesting.
But obviously, the killing in the bathroom, Jamie Kennedy, when he gets pulled into the van and killed, that's a cool, like, obviously it will be an interior scene, but you can make it and frame it that it's an exterior. And you can have like a van inside one of the rooms and have one of the characters get pulled into the van or not pulled in and have like a fake out kind of thing. I think that would work as a cool little transition walkway, like you're walking through a quad. Just like the characters, I think there's some characters that walk by with like a boombox playing while he's getting like wrestled and stabbed to death. Yeah, you could have that, or even if you don't want to have him get pulled into the van, you could just have him already in the van, and as you're walking by, have it start shaking, or have the character kind of start slamming on the window as you walk by. I think that would be a cool little jump scare, cheeky but effective at times. And then obviously Scream 2 deals a little bit with like Sydney doing like theater, like play, and at the end it kind of concludes the whole, obviously spoilers, but the whole ending, I think it ends up being Billy's mother, right? And now you say that, and one of these other psychopath murderers that she found on the internet that was at the time dating Sydney or something like that. Crazy twists, of course. It's a Scream series, but the setting at the very end was really cool, because that's where like Jerry O'Connell was like bound up almost like Jesus Christ on like one of the set pieces in the theater.
Yeah.
And the play that they were doing was like pretty creepy in general. She would have like, they had like Roman style masks, and at one of the scenes she gets like freaked out, and it's like thunder and lightning in there, and she gets spooked because she's coming off of Scream. But I think that whole like little area of the movie could work.
Yeah,
setting
and
up
you
a
could
faux,
kind
a
of
faux
like
theater.
I mean, if you want to think of it in previous HHN terms, you could think of it kind of like you do like a like a
Puppet theater.
like a puppet theater plus a movie theater style. So there's a lot of things you can pull from other houses to use in this.
And that's something they do all the time, so you have to look at things like that.
Right, and I feel like let's be honest, 2, 3, and 4 were poor movies. They weren't the best movies.
Well, I think
they were fun, but they weren't like the original. There wasn't as ingenuitive as the original.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more set pieces.
2 is
A lot
fun.
better set pieces.
Yeah, I like 2. I think 2 is a very good sequel. 3 is it's fun, but it's just very. I think they thought they were ahead of the game when they were actually behind it. And then 4, when that came out, I know we're just saying random thoughts, but 4 I think was a really cool. 4 was reminiscent of Scream 1 to me, where I think it was a little ahead of its time, and it was a smart reworking of a reboot. I think up until that point, like when Scream 1 came around, the slasher genre of the 80s was overdone
dead.
and dead. I think when Scream 4 came out, that slasher horror genre was like kind of dead again, and it was the better like restart of something. It was much better than the Nightmare on Elm Street, and much better than the Friday the 13th.
I think what benefited it was a recognizable character. It obviously didn't have a whole lot of competition because the other remakes were pretty shitty. But
yeah,
even though I have a soft spot for the Nightmare remake, but I think that I wouldn't say that necessarily that the genre was dead like it was in '96. I think the slasher genre kind of was a flash in the pan a little bit after Scream 1. I think Scream 1 revitalized it. It kind of did the same thing it did before, where
got oversaturated.
Everybody kind of tried to copy that formula.
Yep.
You could see that with the Halloween franchise. They tried to do like Halloween Resurrection and Jason X, and so they definitely also tried to copy that. And then it did kind of go away a little bit. And then Scream was like, let's bring back Ghostface. Maybe we can do something with it. And I think it tried to bite a little bit more than it should have.
Yeah, and one of the things that this series benefits from greatly, I think, is the continuation of the same cast. There's been no hiccups.
Which helps.
There's been no...
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a good performance.
And there hasn't been a Halloween, like, timeline chart split.
Right.
And there's no, like... it's 1 through 4.
Halloween, yeah, it's its own story altogether.
Yeah.
There's so many different things going on. So this one was kind of somewhat kept...
Yep, in line. It's nice.
line.
You know, Nightmare on Elm Street, same thing, where it wasn't all the same recurring characters, but obviously Freddy was the same, and besides the remake. But
right,
one linear path, and that's it. It's just easy to follow. But yeah, so Scream 2 does offer up a handful of new things that we could play with. I think the theater scene is very exciting, but I think the movie theater scene, because this is where we get like the super meta of the series. This is when Stab gets involved. So like Scream was just its own thing, but then Stab is a movie within Scream about
it's a movie
what happened.
within a movie about something that happened within the first movie.
Yep.
It's a little... this is where I think that, from my personal taste, it got a little too insane. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't hate 2 or 3. I think it got too meta it was trying to be too meta. But I think for a house, it would make a lot of sense because there's a lot of, just like I said before, good set pieces.
Yeah.
So you don't have to necessarily build this house to follow the main story. Just give you essences of the story. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't need to go into whole big depth. Everybody's seen the movies. You don't need to like go into a ton of explanation.
And we're not getting character development. I mean, the characters in the house don't need to be the characters from the movie.
No, I mean, I think you could just get away with having Sydney's and Ghostfaces.
Yeah,
I don't think you necessarily
Dewey.
need to have
I need
anybody
Dewey.
else. Yeah, give me a Dewey.
I don't even care about Courtney Cox. I don't care about her. But Dewey, give me one shitty cop in there. Like, you have to. All right, so on to Scream 3. Much lesser than Scream 2, which was lesser than Scream 1. It fell into the pattern. The one funny thing that I did like is... the one thing that I did really enjoy is that they brought Jamie Kennedy's character back from Beyond the Grave.
Yes.
He left a video that, in case you're watching this after his death, and there is another killer, that we're now the final act of a trilogy, and it's not a sequel, and everything is different, and the killer is, superhuman, and something from your past is going to be unearthed that you didn't know about. And he pretty much, the character that Jamie Kennedy plays is just great because he just nails these movies within his own universe.
I think,
and I thought it was fun.
It makes his character so good is that he's like that it's super fourth wall breaky.
Yeah.
It's kind of goofy, but it works because that's what they're going for.
And that's his character. That's like if we got caught in a horror movie situation, we would be that. We'd be like, well, we gotta follow the rule. These are the rules. This is like. It would just come down to that mindset of just like, I've seen so many horror movies. I've been trained for
this.
this.
And I think that kind of started its own like subgenre too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's commercials that make fun of it now too.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think that you could probably have at least one scene in the house with Jamie Kennedy.
I would have that
just
TV. I would have the TV playing or something with him on it.
Yeah.
So Scream 3 starts out with we're seeing that it's a new form of killer, I guess, where Cotton Weary is going to be acting in a movie, and he goes home to his girlfriend, or he gets a call saying that the killer's watching the girlfriend or whatever. He rushes home, and there's a killer in his house, but they're using a new voice box that is coming out as Cotton's voice. So the girlfriend's freaked out, and then the killer starts to like go after her, freaks her out, she locks herself away, and then Cotton shows up for real, noticing that somebody was in the house, and he goes in to try to help her, and it's like, oh, somebody in the house, somebody, and she's freaked out because she heard him.
Yeah, so she thinks it's him.
So she thinks it's him, and then the killer comes and bang, they're all dead. That opening scene could be something for us with the whole like bait and switch of like voices. If we can get some sort of like voice play with these actors or something like that. But this is a new take on Ghostface from the person portraying him, because we've always seen him as just the hello Sydney, that voice, versus using other people's voices. And it plays with the times a little bit too, where, and we talked about how in 96, I feel like after this movie, caller ID pretty much tripled in purchases.
Yeah, caller ID kind of became a thing after this movie.
They have to find a way to sort of debunk that, and they did an okay job with like just blanketing the fact that they were like dummy phones and they were untraceable. Sure, but the way to get around the whole voice thing is if you're hacking in through a phone using a dummy number or whatever, say that the call's coming from Seamus and I hear Seamus's voice, like I'm not gonna think twice about it. But that was the killer using a roundabout way to get to you.
Yeah, it's a little wacky, but I mean, you can suspend disbelief enough to understand it.
You can only do the Scream 1 and 2 for so long.
I mean, I think that would be harder to translate in the house, but I think you could still do like at least one scene where someone's talking on the phone and you hear that either that
different
original voice or different
room.
Voices come to the room or whatever, and kind of give you that effect.
And you could just take voices from, or you could take audio clips from the movie and just play that through. It doesn't even have to be them talking. They just hold it up, press play, and the audio loops out or whatever. Just like a little foot trigger thing. But that's not something I think that really, I mean, it's a pretty important aspect of the movie, but I don't know how visually or in person it would play out in a house. It's a little bit weaker. And like I said, this is one of the weaker movies, but I think this is one of the best movies for a house, because we are very meta in this. We are very Stab 3 is now in production, and this is, a lot of it is primarily based around the movie set itself. So there's a cool scene in there where the killer kills one of the actresses in the wardrobe room. Yeah. So she's walking by like a couple push carts of Ghostface costumes, and the Ghostface is in there and jumps out. I think that would be a cool...
Yeah, that's a cool little setup.
Duplicate scene. It's kind of like Us, when they had that the house Us, when they had all the people dressed up in costume.
Dressed up in the costume, yeah.
Do something just like that. I think the whole movie set scenario where you have Woodsboro, but it's not really Woodsboro. It's a set. There's one scene when Ghostface is chasing Sydney in the house, her house,
but it's a
quote
set,
unquote.
Yeah.
She like runs through a door to escape and opens it, and it's just
empty space.
And it's empty space, and like the other room is below. But I think that's something that could be fun played with, because that's very maze-esque.
Correct.
Sending you one way when it's not. So You could do something like that with
Throws you off a little bit.
something like mirror style,
Well, you
where
could
you take
almost-
a turn and it looks like it drops off on the floor.
Yeah, or like how you mentioned before, you could do the original house as a scene in the beginning with Billy, and then recreate that scene, but have the scare be different, and have it be obviously more of a movie set style.
Yeah,
And kind of play on that aspect of the movie where it's like, hey, this is, remember this?
Yeah.
It's a little different.
yeah.
So I think that would be kind of cool.
But then I love the whole stab 3 set thing. You know, there's a couple good kills. One of the guys, Tom, I think it was, gets like blown up because the killer's rewriting the story or rewriting the script of the movie or whatever, and he's faxing them script lines. But he cut the power, but the fax machine still works, sure. But he's like, I need to know how it ends. He runs in there and he's sending. He's like, oh, they're huddled inside, and he's sending it as they're doing that, which time-wise wouldn't work, but whatever. And he reads one of the lines, he's like, and then he gets the smell of, and he just explodes because the lights were out, so he was using a lighter to read the script pages.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like gasoline was like pumping through the oven or something. I mean, that's something that really wouldn't be able to translate into a house. Explode. I mean, unless it's just all like video and sound or something. I don't know how full on exploding
That would
person
be
could
kind of
do
hard.
into a house.
That'd be kind of hard to do, but
And it was such a sub character.
You could do post explosion,
Yeah.
or something like that.
But it was such a sub character that it doesn't really matter. But the later half of the movie, which kind of for me is very reminiscent to Scream 1, you know, as the party and house scene was like 45 minutes, this ending culmination of Scream 3 was dragged out a little bit as well, but it was same thing. It was at the director's birthday party he was throwing for himself at his house, which had a lot of cool little, like, you know, it's a very big, rich mansion. So, like, there's the pool. There's also one of, like, the hidden doors with the library. He has his basement, which is full of his old horror movie props. So, a lot of cool stuff in there that you can kind of play around with. But this is, like, the final climax of the movie where it's, you know, Courtney Cox and Dewey are there with the killer and these other actors and actresses. All the other people get killed off, but not Dewey, not Courtney Cox.
Yeah, well, they can't get killed off. They're part of the main cast.
Yeah, but this is where Sydney confronts the killer. I think it's Roman is the name. And they go into one of the hidden rooms, and they kind of get locked in there, duel it out, and come to find out that for 2 years, Sydney's mom was out in Hollywood being a director, or not director, actress by a different name.
Yeah, she's
and
like alive.
nobody ever knew. Well, this was before she came back. She left when she was younger.
Right. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
It wouldn't surprise me if Maureen Prescott's actually alive in Scream 5, but
Oh yeah, well I can't
We'll
wait
see.
to see how they twist it up in this.
something's
one.
going to happen. But you know, whether they're good or bad, it is fun to see what these little twists are. But essentially, Maureen Prescott went to Hollywood for 2 years and shat out a kid, and then the kid is Roman, the horror director, and then he was the one that convinced Billy and them to kill Sydney's mom. Bingo Bango.
Super weird.
Bingo Bango,
twist.
Jamie Kennedy's prediction of the trilogy, unearthing something from the past that you did not know about,
Yeah.
coming back to bite you, just like
Right.
Star Wars always happens.
It's all kind of again, it's gimmicky. They had to do it to kind of like tie it in, but I think that at least from 3, you can get at least 2, maybe 3 good scenes for that house. Like,
and I do too. I think those scenes. I think 3 has the strongest scenes. If you were to pull for a house, house-wise.
Right, and I think that's why like you can't just do a Scream 3 house. I think you have to do like a Scream house and just include some of that and mix the best of all 3.
Yeah. Now, Scream 4 is the one I have seen the furthest away. I
don't think I've ever seen it, to be honest with you.
So it is good. It's definitely worth a watch, and I probably might watch it tonight. But the scenes that I particularly remember, I remember it being similar to 1. It was kind of like back to Woodsboro, back to basics. It was dealing with Sydney, but the characters that were being stalked weren't really her. It was more of the high school kids again. So it kind of fell back into that world of Scream 1. It almost felt like originally it was going to be a trilogy. It was supposed to be Scream 4, 5, and 6, but unfortunately Wes Craven passed away. And that's why I didn't think we'd ever get Scream 5, because that's why this killed that trilogy. And the idea was they're never going to do it again because this was Wes's baby. And thankfully we're seeing a continuation, and the fact that everybody's on board from the originals shows that they're taking care of it. But 4 was fun. There was typical house kills. The other 2 scenes that I think could work would be there's a big party scene at one of the barns. So again, very Scarecrow-esque, very Pumpkin Lore-y, where it's party in a barn. There's big hay bales everywhere, and it's just cool light setup. It's fun. And then the other one would be the ending of this one is primarily in like the hospital as well, and that's where I'll dance around words not to spoil it for you, but the killer is there. The killer is there, but so is Sydney.
Right.
And killer thought they had gotten away with it, killing Sydney, thinking Sydney was dead. Sydney's still alive. Killer, who is hurt, has to go find Sydney and try to kill her in the hospital.
Kills them,
so it's like 2 very beaten down.
I'm gonna have to go try to find it so I can watch it.
It's very fun.
I haven't seen it. I don't think I've seen it. But I do know I wanted to see it. I just never really.
I think it's. If I had to rank them, 1 is Scream 1. I think I have to go. I'll go Scream 1, Scream 4, Scream 2, Scream 3.
Yeah.
And 2 and 4 are very close. They're very close, and it's just they're both. It's very meta as well with Scream 4. So the way Scream 2 is with sequels, Scream 4 is with reboots.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then again, we stated it last week. All of the movies are playing off the tropes, but they're doing it in a way to say, they're commenting on the tropes. They know what they are.
Yeah.
It's not like one of those movies that's just using the tropes to make a movie.
Yeah.
So
and they intertwine.
I kind of see what we're getting into with it. So I'll have to go back and watch it. Now, as far as the house is concerned, I almost feel like trying to include 4 and 5 in the same house
would be a lot.
Get a little too convoluted. So I think you might have to do a Scream house and just focus on 1, 2, and 3, and then maybe do a sequel to it the following
down
year
the road or whatever.
Or 4, 5, and if they ever make 6, do 4, 5, and 6, or depending on how 5 ends up being when we go see it. Maybe I would consider just doing a Scream 5 house and just do solely Scream 5.
Yeah.
But I think that it's better if they went and did more of like a Scream 1, 2, and 3 and just do Scream as the house. And then maybe like Scream 4, 5, and 6 can be like Scream Return of Ghostface.
Yeah.
Like that.
See, what I would do is I would do what you're talking about. I would dismiss 4 and 5. Because this is something we're at the point now with Horror Nights that it's so pre-worked, pre-done.
Well, right. They've already started designing it. They've already been working on designs for different things. So
when something comes out new like that, it's I wouldn't necessarily expect that to be in there, but I would expect the property in the form of promotion. So being said, I could see them doing a Scream style house, but not with Scream 5, only knowing Scream 5 was coming out. So what I would do is I would do something along those lines. I would do scenes 1, 2, and 3. I would just call it like Scream, something Woodsboro, like the Return of Woodsboro,
or Return to Woodsboro,
Return to Woodsboro, or something like that, where it's not strictly, it's not boxing you into a corner of like, if you call it Scream, you think you're getting 1 or you think you're getting 5.
You don't know which one you're getting.
And so I would do Scream, something with the Slayings
of
Woodsboro, Return to Woodsboro, where it's their own kind of story, with some familiar set pieces.
Exactly, and that's I think where I would probably, for what I would want is, we just spent 40 minutes talking about like all the different things in the movies, but I think I would almost want more of a, like you said, call it Scream Return to Woodsboro, or Scream the Woodsboro Chronicles, or whatever. Call it whatever you want to, but add some sort of tagline, and then let Universal kind of do what they want with the story. Like, you have to include the traditional beats and include some of that essence from the movies, because it's a property, obviously.
Yeah.
But let them kind of do their own thing with it. Let them kind of do their own story with it. Maybe include a Neve Campbell here and there in some of the scenes, but really just be about Ghostface stomping around the set pieces from the movies that you remember, but not necessarily like a complete recreation of the scenes from the movie.
Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of on the line now too. My other last question is, do we need Sydney or not?
I think you do.
Yep.
Personally, I think you do, just because she in that movie. The thing about Scream is it's a lot of it's about the Ghostface killer, but it's never the same dude.
It's always somebody
It's
different.
always somebody different.
And there's always
behind the mask.
multiples.
So I think, like I said before, because of that, it makes having multiple scare actors as Ghostface important, and I think it makes it a little more clever. You can do more things with it. But I do think Neve Campbell's character Sydney is very much a part of it. She's the other half of that movie.
Yeah.
It's like if you did a Halloween House, I think you could get away with doing just Michael, because Michael is so iconic.
Yeah.
But Ghostface, I think it's hard to explain from my perspective, but I think that you almost need Sydney, at least in certain aspects of it, because the movie is so much about her as it is about Ghostface.
Yeah, I mean, Ghostface only goes after Sydney.
Right.
I mean, it kills other people but
right, and think
there
about
is no Ghostface
think about
without
with the
Sid.
Halloween series. Laurie never really had a backstory until they started dragging out the series. And then they started to piece together all this like
Other
lore and
nonsense, yeah.
shit. I think with Scream, it really set up character building. I think the character building was a lot better than most slasher movies.
Yeah.
Not just, again, Laurie's a great character. You know.
Yeah.
We love that character, but I think that if you did a Halloween House, it makes more sense. You're going for Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Laurie's great, but he just.
Michael is the show.
He's the reason you go to see a Halloween movie. I think with Scream, you go to see Sydney versus whoever put on the ghost mask at this point.
Yep.
Because I think she's just, and I think part of that's just from the act. Like Neve's a really good actress.
Yep.
I just think that you need her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to hear what you think about it, because I think that maybe you think the other way, but
I mean, I'm not sure. I honestly think as a house format, I think I could do without Sydney, because it would feel more intimate. It would feel like if we were walking through and there is Sydney, it's Ghostface versus Sydney, and we're caught in the middle. And if
I see what you're saying,
there's no Sydney, it's like we're trying to escape Ghostface. So I think that would play a little bit better in a house format. Now, I never want to see a Scream movie without Neve Campbell. I don't want Sydney's character gone from the series if they're going to continue this. But I think in a house format, I don't think it's necessary, because it's not as. It probably wouldn't be as storyline driven. It would be just.
No, I can see that perspective. I see that side of it. I mean, I think depending on what you're going for, if you want the house to be more of just like you're in the movie.
Yep.
Versus, do you want to be in the world?
Or do you want to see? Yeah, exactly. It's movie versus world. Yeah, exactly.
And I think you could potentially go the route you want, but still include her somehow. Like whether it's you show up and it's just one actress in the very beginning playing Neve Campbell's like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Did you know that the Ghostface he's loose again or whatever? Just something goofy like that, but at least to kind of keep her.
Dewey!
Keep her involved, but like still include you as the audience member as in that universe.
Yeah, you're like walking in on the story. Any stab references? Should we do like stab into Scream, stab into Scream, stab into Scream? Or is that too...
I think that would be funny, but I think there's too much going on. It would be
too meta for the Scream people.
Yeah, I mean, so I could see why you would do that. I think that if you're not already a Scream junkie, like if you're not a super fan of the series, like I'm not a super fan of Scream. I guess. Yeah. I don't know if
I like them.
I don't know if I've established this yet or not, at least from last episode or this episode, but I'm not as big on Scream as I am on everything else. Yeah. It's not one of those movies that really holds a huge place in my heart. It does a little bit just because I grew up with it. It was a slasher we grew up with.
It was ours. It was our generation's
slasher.
But
I've always just been more into the 80s schlock and the Halloweens of the world that were
They're fun. I mean, it's a fun movie. I do like them, but I'm with you. The Halloween series, the Friday series, Nightmare.
They just hold a different place in what I want. So Scream, I think they're great movies. I think they're great with what they do. But I'm not wild about it. Like, it's never going to break my heart if they never have a Scream house. Yeah. But if they did, I think it would be fun. And I would, like you said, I don't want it to be just a recreation of the movies. I want it to be like the essence of Scream. Give me Ghostface. And do what you want with it.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, adding stab to it would be just way too much.
I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, I don't think I could come up with a good enough idea for that.
And it would be,
That's why I don't do it. But
I mean, you could potentially, again, if they wanted to do like just straight up movie houses of like 1, 2, and 3,
yeah,
you could kind of do the play on stab versus scream in the Sewer 3 house. But I think that's too much. You're asking too much. If they're only going to get the rights to the character like once, you're better off just doing one big extravaganza about him in that world. Yeah. Don't include all the extra meta stuff that's within the world. It's just too weird.
Yeah. So, chances we see it this year. What do you think? Where do you put it as a percentage? Yeah.
Slim to none.
Slim to none.
I think it's one of those situations where I not to say that I don't think Universal wants to do it. Yeah. I think it's one of those situations where, like we kind of said already, Universal starts planning for the following or subsequent year, when that current year starts, they're already in the back room planning for the following year, and I'm sure they've got ideas brewing for even years ahead of next year.
Yeah, I'm sure they're at 35 already.
So
I'm sure they're planning the next anniversary.
I think the only way you get this is if something falls through and they need a property. Yeah. And for whatever, I don't know, is it who owns Scream franchise? Do you know? I know it was like New Line, but I don't know who owns
Off the top
New
of my
Line.
head, I'm not positive.
I forget. It could be in-house. I'm completely unaware, so if someone wants to correct me on that, like maybe Universal owns the character already, which make it easier.
Well, I mean, they did have it at
they had the
previously
scenes in the compilation house, but do I think we're going to get a full-on Scream house? I don't see it happening. I think that if we get anything, it would be the year following. I could see. I guess maybe let me reword that a little bit. I think maybe I'm more apt to believe that they'd be getting it in Hollywood.
That would make sense. I mean, they definitely do.
Because it feels like
get more.
Some of these properties they test it in Hollywood first before they send it here. At least that's what it comes across to me. But then again, I'm not an expert, so I don't really know. I think personally, again, I don't see it happening. I think there's about a 25% chance that we see it.
So, I will tell you that
it's Dimension. That's right, Dimension.
Yeah, Dimension. So, which is also, but that was acquired by Disney in '93.
Dimension's owned by Disney.
Yeah. So
that's weird.
But it has happened after the fact because it obviously came after the fact. So who knows? It is a Dimension film, but it has shown in the back. If I gave it a 1 through 10 chance of it being there, I would put it at probably like a 2.5.
That's
a 2.
Right around where I am.
If I saw it, I would probably be a little surprised.
I would be definitely surprised if we get it.
Yeah,
I think I'll be more than surprised because I think there's other properties that they're gonna want to take advantage of. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying, they're planning things in advance, so I would be more apt to believe we're gonna get a Candyman house.
Yep.
Before we get
house. We talked about that previously.
And that's a Universal property. He's a Universal monster.
It's Universal. It's Jordan Peele.
Right. So there's already things there. Yeah. I think there's things that have come out on Netflix recently that they're gonna make use of. Yep. Like we had said earlier, there's a Fear Street potentiality.
Cool, yep.
Even this new show, Midnight Mass, which is pretty good. I still haven't watched it yet. I know
we're behind.
I haven't watched it yet. I should sit down and watch it. But that's also something they could potentially use. So I think there's too many things outside of the Scream movies for them to use.
And this wouldn't be cheap to get.
Right. I don't think it'd be an easy property if they don't already have it.
We know how busy Horror Nights is already. Why cut into your margins and pay up that bit? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need that heavy hitter anymore.
Right, and I want to believe that Universal is leaning more towards original ideas than they are internal properties. I think they'll still have
They're
them,
fun.
But I think they're learning, because if you think about it, every time we go, we always get asked by people that work there, like, hey, what do you think? What are your favorite houses or whatever? And they always tell us that, we hear that Pumpkin's going to be the house of the year, or
Puppet,
or Yeti, or Puppet Theater, or whatever,
graveyard
games. All these original ideas or semi-original ideas are always on top of everybody's list. Mm-hmm. The IPs are there to draw the general crowd.
That's what sells the tickets on. Yeah,
but at the end of the day, I think the more people care about is some of that original stuff. So I think they're going to get away from as many IPs as they have.
I hope so.
And I could be wrong. Maybe they'll keep up doing what they've been doing, but I know we were talking to Cody from Set It Off a few weeks ago, and he said like he didn't know that there were 10 houses prior to this year. So if they increase the number, I think you're going to get more original, less IP.
Yeah.
So I think there's just not enough room for a Scream house. I think that there's too many things IP wise that
There's
they're
a lot
going to
going
use
on. Yeah.
that they already have rights to, or that they already have at least their hands in the pot with. That I think you're going to get more of.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, anything can happen.
It's like I said, I'm putting it at a 2.5. I don't expect it. I would be excited, but it's definitely not one of those.
Yeah, I think I'd be more.
I really want to see. It would be fun, but I don't know if it'd be like Texas Chainsaw for me.
Well, I think
probably a little bit higher.
I think
but
that's the thing. I think for me, it'd be more like Texas was for you this year. Like I was completely not on board with Texas this year.
Like it's fun, but that's it.
Obviously, when I saw it, I was a little wrong. It was fun. It was enjoyable. Probably a little better than I expected.
Yeah,
but it was still not like I wasn't like.
I didn't need
jumping
to go
over the moon to go see it.
I didn't need to go in it every night.
But I feel like if Scream were to be a property, I think much like Texas was for you earlier or late last year, I think, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Like, we were right. We saw it coming, and they're actually going to do it. And I'll do it a few times, but I won't like go out of my way to wait.
It won't be an opening night one.
Yeah.
No. Well, I think that that does it for our Scream talk. We did a lot of Scream talk this week. We are going to be checking out that movie tomorrow.
We are going to be seeing it tomorrow.
We're going to check it out tomorrow.
9 o'clock. Well, tomorrow, Thursday night at 9 o'clock. You guys have already...
Yesterday at 9.
Yeah, so we saw it yesterday at 9 o'clock.
All right, but until next time, this is Nick.
And this is Seamus.
Happy haunts.
Hello, Sydney.
Cursed. It's got a death curse.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
And again, I would just like to thank Vampire Stepdad for letting us use his music for our intro and outro music. So if you would, just go check him out. Spotify, Facebook. Again, that is Vampire Stepdad.